latest top tips, reviews and advice, please subscribe below.
Hello and welcome to Attwoolls Outdoors with me, Mike. Today I'm going to give you guys a bit of a review video on a product from EasyCamp. So with me here today, I've got the EasyCamp Palmdale Lux tent. So the Palmdale Lux is almost worth clarifying as a Palmdale and then a Palmdale Lux. Two very different tents but sharing the same name. The Palmdale Lux is kind of a free zone tent. So we've got sleeping, living, and then obviously an enclosed kind of canopy in comparison to the normal Palmdale, which essentially has kind of got sleeping, living, but then an open kind of canopy at the front. And you can check out that individual tent review video we've done on that. EasyCamp, if you've not really heard of them, is kind of a manufacturer. They've been around for numerous years now. They're actually owned by the same kind of company that owns Attwoolls. So you've got a lot of kind of ethoses that do cross over, but this is more definitely a price-orientated range rather than Attwoolls, which is their sort of sister brand, which typically tends down to being more premium. So what I think we've got in the tent itself is designed to be still decent sort of quality, no frills in terms of features, the bare essentials that you necessarily need, and it makes it almost a perfect kind of option for the person who doesn't want to spend an awful lot of money. It's someone's first tent, they want to try it, but still want a good experience. So really nice sort of tent. As we talked about, free zones available in two different sizes, so there's a 500 and a 600. One thing I'd say initially on the sizes is that I wouldn't say it's a true 5-man and 6-man. The images and everything they do supply indicate you can sleep 5 or 6 people in there, and to a certain extent you could, but when you come to look at actually sleeping on something, that's when you come a bit of a scupper. The 600 is the model I've got with me here, and it runs about sort of 3.5 meters wide by about 7 meters 20 long in total. When we have a look at the 500, it's the same kind of concept in terms of free zones, but it's only 3 meters wide, and then also it's kind of 6 meters 30 long. The middle section actually drops down, so you only have one bay, so probably finishes about here. So definitely the 6 has got the better room. I always recommend going with something that's slightly a bit bigger than you think, just because when it comes down to rain, you've got that area under cover. What we've got really here is a really nice kind of 70 denier material, 3000 mm high shelly head. So a really nice sort of waterproof level, perfect for kind of a starting point. Fiberglass poles, so it's quick and easy to pitch to a certain extent, but also means it remains light in terms of its pack weight and also pack size. We've done our own Attwoolls pitching and packing video, which you can check out on our YouTube channel and obviously via the link below. Pitched this on my own, the best part of 12-13 minutes, so it's perfect at going away for those shorter trips, also as well as those longer ones, because you've kind of got the space. Fiberglass poles you get with it is about 12.7 mil, so it's a good sort of thickness. A short kind of sleeve along the roof makes it easy to feed them through, and then you can just clip it on down from that point. It's been a model that's been in EasyCamp's range for a number of years, but for me I think this is probably the smartest colour choice they've had to use for it. So I think actually the kind of tonal blue works really nicely, and to a certain extent that's what kind of a bit of that no kind of frills. Big panels, minimal amount of windows, but still gives you that visibility out on the campsite. Even though it's to a certain extent is a bit minimal, you've still got kind of decent amount of level of features, things like mesh side doors and a mesh front door, which again you don't really see too often from sort of tents on equivalent kind of models from other brands. From the pole scenario thing, all the main poles are the same length apart from the back one, so it's very easy to pitch. There's a little kind of colour tab on the back pole as well, and a grey section in that whole elasticated pole, so it makes it very easy to identify what pole goes where. We've still got things like crystal clear windows in the actual sort of tent as well, so you get great vision out, and then you've got toggle up curtains on the inside to get the ultimate amount of privacy when you wanted to. There's not a huge amount of ventilation unless you're really relying heavily on the sort of the front door and windows and the side window, side door I should say. There's a rear vent at the back, but you want to make sure those are constantly open for this, because you will find probably will suffer a little bit from condensation due to kind of lack of airflow a little bit. In free zones, like I said, I think from a price point of view, for what you pay for you get, I think it's really good value. It's not going to set the world like in terms of appearance, but I think it still looks fairly smart or a bit, and the touch of the green kind of colour works quite nicely. And actually the little kind of triangular points are actually a point where you would put any excess guidelines which comes applied. So there's a little kind of pocket on the underside of it quite cleverly, so it velcros in, so you can obviously put the guidelines in there, so rather than sort of bunch them up, feed them in there, when you come to pitch it you can just pull it out and peg it, and obviously your guidelines supplied all the way around it. Admittedly not the best colour, but still do its job. You can always whack some sort of bunting around it to make sure you don't necessarily kind of trip over it. But front door, you've got the ability to close it. As we kind of say, open it up from there, allows you to access the tent quite nice and easily. And for a canopy sort of depth, the canopy remains the same regardless of where you go for the 500 or the 600. Of course, the width changes, but the overall depth, I think, is about 2.5 meters from memory. You can roll that tile door nice and open. And it's quite nice having that flexibility that you can open and close the front section. So you've got a bit of shelter away from the wind and rain, but you find actually, to be fair, you can cover it off when you need to, and then door kind of toggle backs in place like here. There's no actual ground sheets applied for kind of this front awning section, but when you buy, say, the footprints, it then does come into it, and what you find actually, it kind of rises up a little bit and toggles up. So again, that's a bit more of a premium feature you don't necessarily see with, say, other brands. Let's kind of pick the camera up and bring the camera a little bit round the corner and look down the front of it so we can kind of get a bit more of an impression of the Palmdale Lux. So as we kind of come through, you can probably see the front section a bit easier there now. So directly down here we can see good sort of canopy depth. Interior height wise is not actually too bad as well. I'm about 6'2", can stand dead in the middle. Admittedly, when you get to the corners it's a little bit kind of lacking, but at the end of the day most likely you've got to have some sort of storage unit or something to the sides and use this as your main kind of sort of section here. I always see this being this kind of definitely more of a wet, dry area, so it's not something you could probably ever get completely sealed away from the weather. So, and that's almost a bit of a benefit with the slight slope in the front door. If it rains, no ground sheet in here if you don't want to use it. It's just going to soak into the grass and not have to worry about necessarily collecting on the ground sheet and then have to worry about it from there. As we kind of come back into the divisional door between kind of the main living area and kind of the front canopy area, we can see we've got this full frontal mesh door, twinned up with mesh windows on either side. Now it's obviously crucial, like I say, you keep this kind of airflow, certainly with the windows in place, to help with that airflow itself. The front door does have another blank door, similar to the front door we rolled away, so when you want to kind of get that ultimate seal, you can still do that. But for me, I think for me, you'd probably keep it open at all times necessarily. If you want that bug-free barrier, of course, zip it up, and then you've got supports from the sort of side door and the front door itself. There's no curtains on the front section as well, but it's not the end of the world, to be perfectly honest. You can zip it up and just keep it away from the wind and rain. The zips are quite nice. I do like the fact actually that there's zips along the bottom of the actual tent, so you can get a really nice solid feel, and it's a bit more plucker. This sort of door, mesh door I should say, can open up, and you can again roll it back like we have with a normal door, nice and open. The front lip, as we can see, has the ability to kind of sort of toggle up into place. Failing that, you can get the seal like so. Failing that, you can peg it in his eyelets in the corners to peg that down to give you trip-free access into the actual tent itself. These kind of mesh parts here are left open permanently, so again to have that inflation, that sort of airflow into the tent. And then there's two windows either side of the tent itself. Now you've got toggle up curtains, so you can either go up sort of fully up to the top to get the ultimate light of privacy when you wanted to. Failing that, you can go halfway, so there's a halfway point, and bring that right down to the bottom. And it just rolls into the side. So makes life a bit easier. Then from kind of the main living areas are sort of very generous. Like I said, for the 500 version, it's probably a little bit shorter, so around about sort of here-ish, but enough in here for tables and chairs. I certainly see probably the 600 being more of a very comfy 4, and then the 5 being probably a squeeze of a 4, more really as a 3, admittedly with very generous. I'm talking comfy living spaces here. The back bedrooms, it's split up into 2 sections. So we've got essentially a 3 and a 3. With the 600, we've got a 165 and a 165. With the 5, it's 165 and 110. Yep. So they're only really allowing 55 centimeters per person. That's pretty much the smallest on the marketplace. So you do have to bear in mind and scale up a little bit. So, you know, appreciate that when they say 3, it's going to be 2. And then that way you've got a very generous 2 rather than a very stingy 3. Because you'll struggle to find any free air beds or free, certainly self-inflating mats. Roll mats you probably get free in there, and that's kind of what they're based on. It's the smallest you can allow per person. There's a divider between the two sections as well, which kind of toggles in and toggles out of place. So you still have that divide, or you can completely sort of roll it up to the top and toggle it in place. I like the fact you've got mesh built into the actual front of the intents here. Again, no curtain to help kind of with ventilation, but that's on both of the side kind of entrances. And you've almost got kind of a feel of a bit more of a, I think they definitely feel more like a plasticky zip rather than a steel zip. So again, it's those little points there kind of it help to sort of understand why the price is so competitive. Another thing I do quite like is you've got sort of physical storage pockets built into the bedroom as well, so you can kind of maximise your main living space and store things like keys, phones and books, that sort of stuff, quite nice and neatly in there. In the bedroom section at the back here, you've also got kind of mesh storage pockets located on both sides of the tent, so you can put things like keys and phones in there on a night, so when you need to get up to use a loo, you can easily identify where it is. And again, there's a nice big rear vent at the back here to help increase airflow. A hanging point for lanterns located directly in the middle, and you've got a cable entry point down on this left-hand side, so you have your mains hook up inside tent without having to leave the door open. But let's kind of bring the camera in and kind of get a bit more of a feel for the Palmdale. You might be able to see a bit clearer as well. It's a bit lighter towards the back. Here we go. So, as I said, you've got the bedroom section in the back, a nice even split of kind of a 2 and 2. The windows in that kind of front section, and then you've got a sort of a generously kind of size front awning section there with obviously the windows to get the visibility around the campsite. Double depth living area into kind of the bedroom section. You can see there's mesh pockets located down there, and you've got a big sort of vent at the top to help with sort of airflow. Storage pockets again, all mesh built into it, and then obviously the mesh part there as well. So that works really nicely. We've got a good range of pockets, and then we've got the cable entry point down there, the red zip. So very easy to get access into, and there's all little tabs even located here actually, so you can bring that directly to that hanging point, which situates itself there. And we've got that full nice mesh door built into the side, so you've got the mesh side and then mesh sort of front barrier against it. So like I said, no frills, but offers quite a bit. And again, for someone who doesn't want the world and its wife in terms of on their tent, I think it works well. The new kind of blue colour scheme with the grey, I think, works sharper. I think it lifts it a little bit more than kind of its previous. I think it was just a full-on orange colour, which was a bit Marmite. At the back here, we've also got a ventilation point that you can probably see. So you can have this vent sort of pulled open with the guy ropes, so it allows that airflow directly in. Failing that, if you really wanted to, you can actually fully toggle back up to the top and can leave that vent open, and it almost doubles up as a little bit of a window to a certain degree. As we kind of come round, again, you can see that sort of mesh door on the side. I like it, actually, it's sort of like a D door that it zips along the bottom, so it keeps it really nice and easy. But then all the guy lights around it. So all in all, I think it's got a kind of a lot going for it. It's quite nice, like I said, that it's just something a little bit different. And for the person who doesn't want to spend, you know, extravagant amounts of money, I think that it ticks a lot of boxes. Certainly have that free zone works really well. For more information, what you can always do is check the link below this video. It will take you straight through to our website where we've got more information on things like pack sizes, floor dimensions, individual features all listed quite nice and neatly as well. As well as our pitching video and any sort of other sort of bits we've got to go in together with sort of package deals and so forth. So that's always worth a watch. Any more questions or queries, by all means feel free to comment in the box below. Let us know what you think of it, or by all means contact us by email. But that's kind of our little video review on the EasyCamp Palmdale Lux in the 500 and also the 600. Hopefully we'll see you again soon, but thank you for watching.